river. And so welcome to Sanford, the city of Sanford in Seminole County. I am Andrew Spar, president of the Florida Education Association. And it is an honor to be here today with you, and we're going to have some great speakers today as we really motivate people to get out and vote. We have to vote, we have to vote, we have to vote, we have to get our friends to vote, we have to get our family to vote, we have to get our significant others to vote, we have to get our parents, our aunts, our uncles, our adult children. We have to get everybody out to vote, because that is the only way we can make our voices heard. So this afternoon we have a great program for you. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to hear from some great speakers, and we're going to start with Shantae Henderson, the president of the Seminole County Bus Drivers.
Hello, 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 everyone. It's so nice to see you all here today. I am Shantae Henderson, the president of Seminole County School Bus Driver Association. It is my pleasure on behalf of Seminole Uniserve to welcome all of you here to the AFT Bus Tour Rally in my hometown of beautiful Sanford, Florida. First, we want to do some housekeeping. We want to acknowledge all the city leaders and dignitary leaders that is with us today. Welcome. I hear voting is breaking records. I actually voted today, and it felt good to know that my vote will count. Voting for the right candidate will be great for this country, and it will put more fundings into our public schools, which is very important. That could potentially give smaller public schools, public class sizes, better salaries for all school board employees, and more funding for early childhood programs such as VPK. My grandson is actually a part of that program this year, and he loves it and learning so much. I want to personally thank Mariel Reed, our better known as DJ Squirrel, for entertaining us today. This evening, we have a well-known, history-making city commissioner, some awesome candidates that we hope you all vote for, and AFT officers that will be speaking. Make sure you stop by to see my union family. They have some treats. They have some treats and light refreshments and some goodies for the children. It's a win-win for all. Welcome, 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 and vote, vote, vote. Thank you.
All right, give it up for Shantae. All right, I just want to remind everyone, we are under the COVID rules, so please socially distance, spread out. There's plenty of room. Let's make sure we're keeping our distance so we can keep everyone healthy and safe. Next up, we're going to have a community prayer led by Reverend Dr. Randolph Bracy Sr. Reverend Bracy.
Hello. I'm Reverend Randolph Bracy Jr. I'm a native Floridian of over 75 years. I've seen Florida change. In fact, I was a public school teacher in West Florida in a little town called Monticello. That was my first job as a science teacher. And I've seen Florida change. This is a wonderful time to be alive because we're in a battle. We're in a battle for the soul of this nation and the right to vote. Near this ground was a black lady named Mary McLeod Bethune, who was born 10 years out of slavery, but who became a champion for social justice and the rights of people, not only of color, but for women. She stood as a champion even before the 19th Amendment, when women received the right to vote. I remember registering around 1965 in Washington, D.C., as a student then at Howard University with the Voting Rights Act. When you think about it, there's nothing more sacred other than your relationship with the Lord than your right to vote. The 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendment. We've seen people try to keep us from voting, but we must impel and implore everyone in the sphere of our influence to know the power of the vote. So I'm here as a longtime educator. So glad to see you, Madam President. As a longtime educator, first job, but one, because if we vote, we will change the trajectory of this nation. If we vote, especially right here in Florida, if we vote, game over. Everybody talks about battleground states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Texas even now. But if you win Florida, and right now you're in the middle of the I-4 corridor, the I-4 corridor will determine the next president of the United States of America. Prophetically, the 44th president of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama, said in 2008, right near these grounds on the I-4 corridor, said, we win the I-4 corridor, we win Florida, and I will become the 44th president of the United States. Guess what? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. We win Florida, game over. So I impel you, I implore you, oh, come on, I mean, this is serious business. And so with that in mind, I'm going to pray. And I realize now I'm going to say this. I'm a partisan prayer right now. As the hip-hoppers say, there's no shame in my game. I'm praying for the Biden-Harris ticket. And I'm praying for down ballots, that there will be a blue tsunami on the way. Will you bow with me? Gracious God, we thank you for this time together. We bless you, we exalt you, we magnify your name. You're a God who sits high but looks low. And I just believe, Heavenly Father, you see what's happening. And you are the power that nothing happens without your movement. And I see a tsunami on the horizon that will change the whole complexion of these United States of America. That one day we will really live out the creed, our true creed, a nation where all men are created by their Creator with inalienable rights. Among them, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We bless you, and we're praying for your best blessing. In the strong name of our Christ, we pray. And all the people of God said amen.
Bring those down. Not that tall. All right, we're going to hear next from a city commissioner, a city councilwoman from this area, from the city of Sanford, Sheena Britton.
Hi, y'all. Listen, I am not a public speaker. As a matter of fact, speaking publicly is terrifying to me. But do you know what's more scarier? Having the wrong person in office. And that's why it's so important that we're out here doing what we're doing today, that we are encouraging our young people to vote, our elders to vote, our community to vote, that we go and we research our candidates to make the right decisions for us, those people who are going to represent us. So I'm going to keep it short and keep it sweet and say I thank you all for everything that you're doing. I'm a product of Seminole County Public School System, and you guys rock. Let's continue to rock the vote because our vote is too big to rig. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, Sheena. All right, we're going to move to our candidates. I'm going to remind everyone, please keep your mask on when you're up here speaking. And if our candidates could keep their comments short, we would appreciate it. If you're going long, I might get too close to you. All right, so we're going to move on here to the State House. And we have two candidates with us today who are running for State House. And I will point something out, not to necessarily be partisan. But in all the partisan races here in Seminole County, all the people with a D after their name are women. And all the people with an R after their name are men who look like me. So let's move to House District 28, where Pasha Baker is running. Pasha.
Good evening. How are y'all? Well, we can do better than that. It's a beautiful day and it feels like fall. We get to wear a jacket without sweating today. So how are y'all? It's almost election day. 3 more days to go. We got the weekend and we got Tuesday. It's the big day. It's the big day. And like Andrew said, thank you so much for inviting me here today to speak to all the teachers, faculty, school support, staff, bus drivers, and everyone who's playing a part in educating our school system. My name is Pasha Baker, and I'm running for House District 28, which covers this portion of Sanford that you are in. I'm 3 generations here in the city of Sanford. My mother was the first Black teacher to integrate Lake Mary Elementary. So I have deep ties to the school system. My father was a bus driver, someone who was union supported and that always supported his fellow bus drivers, but also made sure that people got to where they needed to go on time and safely. And so we love our bus drivers as well. So I want to tell you all that we have to get out and vote like never before. Because what's on the ballot this year, on Tuesday, is changes on the ballot. Our public school system is on the ballot. We have $1 billion that is going elsewhere. That's not going to the public school system, but going to profit businesses. That should be going to our schools. What could you all do with $1 billion? Do you have everything you need as far as workers' benefits? Do you have the PPE that you need? Did our veteran teachers receive their raises? Do our children have moved, not in portables, but in nice, sound buildings? So it's a lot that could be done. We have change on the ballot, public education on the ballot. Systemic racism is on the ballot. The future of women, the future of our country is on the ballot. So I ask for you all now to vote, 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 and vote change on Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you.
All right, Pasha Baker. I'm going to move next, actually, to a fighter in Washington, D.C. Congressman Stephanie Murphy has been a great advocate for us in Washington, D.C. And you know when you're doing things right, they come after you. Whenever you're doing things right, they come after you. And they're trying to come after Stephanie Murphy right now. So let's give it up for Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, Seminole County.
I'm Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, and I'm really proud to be your voice in Washington. You know, and I'm really honored to be here with educators and folks who are involved in our public school system. And I'll tell you why. I came to this country as a refugee and an immigrant with my parents working multiple jobs just so that I could focus on my education. And because I had access to quality public education, it was an equalizer for me. I became the first woman in my family to graduate from college. And I went from living in a trailer park to working in an office park. And that would have never happened if it hadn't been for folks like you who cared about this little girl and helped her achieve her dreams. And so now I'm working to make sure that every person in America, no matter what zip code they're born in, has the same opportunity at the American dream. And in Congress, I have held teacher town halls to listen to educators, because that's how you start representing people, is by listening first. And after Hurricanes Maria and Irma, I secured over $100 million for Florida K-12 schools and our colleges and universities to help them recover costs of the new students. And I was able to secure millions more to help students learn English in our school systems, and fought for funds to study the effects on children of these active shooter drills, and have fought for money to help keep schools open and open safely in this pandemic. And then, you know, I heard some of the most heartbreaking stories from my teachers on that town hall. People scared about going back without the necessary PPE. People spending money, not just on school supplies, which they unfortunately have had to do, but also on PPE for them and their students. And so I fought to let teachers be able to write off these expenses and trying to secure more dollars so that you don't have to pay this out of pocket. There is still so much more to be done, though, and I'm running this fall to fight for jobs, security, and opportunity. And you know what? The Trump campaign said this week that they were going to win Florida because Democrats are going to leave votes literally sitting on our kitchen tables. Are we going to let that happen? No. So Saturday and Sunday are the last 2 days of early voting. Go to iwillvote.com to find out where you can vote. Make a plan, vote, then tell friends and family. We are living in the swing part of the swing state. So goes Central Florida, so goes Florida, and so goes the nation. No pressure, but a lot of responsibility on your shoulders here in Central Florida. We can't rest because, as Michelle Obama said, we have to vote like our lives depend on it, because they do. So I want to also invite you all to an event we're doing on Sunday at 11 a.m. at the Civic Center. Come by after you vote with your sticker and your mask, and we'll have food, music, and fun, and just really celebrate the opportunity to live in a democracy and have the ability to have our voices heard. So thank you so much. God bless America.
Okay, we're going to keep moving real quick. Our next speaker, running for State House of Representative District 29, Tracy Kagan.
Oh, thank you for having me here today. I am the other half of Pasha Baker. I cover District 29. Pasha does Sanford, part of Sanford. I do the other part, Longwood, Lake Mary, and Altamont Springs. And I consider it an honor to be here. I am the daughter of an assistant vice principal in the South Bronx for 25 years, a sister to a teacher for 25 years in Fairfax, LA. And most people don't know this, but I actually taught high school social studies when I graduated college for a year in the South Bronx. Now, let me tell you, first of all, I have such deep respect for each and every one of you who dedicate your time, your lives, and have made this a vocation. Because the legislature in Tallahassee doesn't value our teachers, our educators. They have not stood behind you. They have not stood behind your unions. They have not stood behind working families. And you know and I know how important this election is to get out and vote, grab someone to vote, don't depend on the polls, because we need to preserve public education. We need to provide for our future. And how do we get to our future? Through our children and through educators like you. So I really have to hand my hats to you. You're doing the work. I'm just the spokespiece. Wind me up and tell me what you need me to do in Tallahassee, and I'll be that pit bull that gets it done. So I want to thank you for that. Now, I go to bed with anxiety lately. I don't know whether you guys do. I wake up with anxiety. What I want to tell you is this: don't look at the polls. Keep moving forward. Get everyone around you to keep moving forward and get to those polls. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. And Tuesday, go to your precinct polls if you haven't voted already. Take a friend, drive a friend, see if somebody needs a ride, help them get out there. We are on the precipice of change in Tallahassee. We are going to break that glass ceiling. Pasha and I will be the first women to ever hold these positions. Isn't it time we had good role models in Tallahassee? You know, we represent 54% of the voting bloc in Seminole County. Isn't it time we had a seat at the table? For too long, our legislators have made rules and laws for us. Rather than being the voice of the people, they're the voice of corporate donors. Let's change it. Let's make this change. Let's make it not for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. Let's do it. Let's flip it blue for Biden. Let's flip it blue from up to down the ticket. I am Tracy Kagan, and I will work so hard for you, and I will work to represent you in Tallahassee. Come out, reach for me, Kagan for Florida. There's a lot we can do. We can wave signs. We can get out there, and we can be even louder than the other side. So thank you. I'm inspired by all of you. Let's do this. Let's do it. Yes.
All right. You know, any good teacher knows sometimes you got to throw the lesson plans out. We're going to adjust our lesson plans a little bit right now because the busiest person in the world is actually right here in Sanford, Florida, right now. No one works harder than the president of the American Federation of Teachers, fighting every day from LA to New York, from Seattle down here to Key West. Randy Weingarten is the kind of person who will do whatever she needs to do. She will move mountains to make sure that our kids have the education they deserve and that the people who work in our schools have the advocate they need at all levels. It is such a great honor to have in one of the most important counties in this presidential election, here in Sanford, Florida, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten.
Okay, we've been prayed to today, which is really good. We've been exhorted today, which is really good. We have amazing women on the ballot who you've just heard from, which is awesome. And now we're going to just hear a little bit of what the stark reality is. I'm telling all of you what my lesson plan is. I'm a social studies teacher from Brooklyn, New York. Bronx in the house, Brooklyn in the house, but Florida in the house. But ultimately, we've spent, you see that bus, and Fed, who's going to speak, you know, I'm thankful that I'm finally going in front of Fed instead of after Fed. But, you know, Fed started with me in that bus in LA on September 30th. We've gone 14 states, from California to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and now down the coast to Florida. We've avoided a couple hurricanes. But why would we do this year, in a year when we are exhorting everybody to be careful, be physically distanced, wear their masks, and really try to make sure that we don't spread COVID and we take care of our families. We're doing it because, as Stephanie Murphy said, as so many others before me said, the Reverend said, and by the way, I'm married to a rabbi, and I think it's about time that we make sure that nobody takes faith away from us. So why would we be doing this? Because if you say it's the most consequential election of a lifetime, then you have to actually act like it's the most consequential election of a lifetime. And so we've been trying to keep our distance, but keep socially connected. We've been trying to actually make sure that people understand that wearing masks is a matter of life and death for others. It is a way we keep each other safe. And ultimately, it's a patriotic duty of all of ours to wear a mask and to keep each other safe. But what we've also seen, and we've seen this in the last 2 days in Florida as well, and we've been on the I-4 corridor all day long, is that we miss each other. We miss the engagement. We want to go back to some sense of normalcy. But we know that you can't actually get back to some sense of normalcy unless you crush the virus, unless you actually take on the virus. You can't, even Wall Street has finally gotten this week, that you can't actually go and keep going economically unless you actually crush the virus and not let it crush you. And unfortunately, Donald Trump has let the virus tackle us. And frankly, your governor has done the same thing. Ultimately, your governor is kind of like Donald Trump's sidekick. And part of what we're trying to do now, and part of what we're dealing with in Florida, and why we're exhorting everyone to vote and not give up, is because we know that there's going to be a better day. We know there's a real choice in this election. You see it in terms of Stephanie Murphy's race. She has been attacked every single day since she was elected because they can't believe that people in Seminole voted for a Democrat. They can't believe that people in Seminole, people in Sanford, actually want to focus on what's good for people as opposed to what's good for power. They can't believe that people here in Seminole actually are willing to fight the fight to ensure that our kids get a decent education, that our kids have the funding that they need, that we actually have the guidance from Washington to solve a national pandemic instead of tweets in all caps. Yeah, what is that is right. They can't believe that people in Seminole actually care about each other and fighting to make sure that people with pre-existing conditions get taken care of, and that health care is a right, not a privilege, that all of us should have, and that a union and jobs and having a voice at work is something that all of us should have. These kind of kitchen table issues, which working people all across the country, including in the I-4 corridor, really need. That's what's on the ballot. And there is a choice. It's not just that Donald Trump is chaotic, is divisive, is a liar. It's not just that. It's that people are yearning for hope, for opportunity, for a sense of normalcy, for safety, for fairness. And that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris bring with them. I know Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for decades. They are as compassionate as a summer day is long, even in Florida. They are fierce, and they will take on issues, but they find ways to solve problems and to bring people together. They will fight to make sure that health care is a right for all of us, that drug prices go down and health costs go down and the provision of health care goes up. They believe in public education. They will do. One of the things that I am going to look so forward to is the day that Betsy DeVos leaves her office in Washington. I don't quite understand how you can be Secretary of Education and hate education. But ultimately, they understand that parents and teachers right now are full of anxiety about what's going on in schools, and that we need federal guidance, that we need federal resources, not just a dicta that tells us to go back to work or back to school. All of us want to be back in schools, but we want it to be safe, and we want our kids to have a great education. These kitchen table issues are what keeps Joe Biden and Kamala Harris up at night. So the choice is clear. I could go on, but you could go on too. It's like every single moment, Donald Trump says something that is so outrageous. Like today, he said again that doctors make money when they have high COVID cases and COVID deaths. My sister happens to be a pediatrician. When he said it initially, she kind of looked at, on a Zoom, she kind of looked at us, me, and said, doesn't he understand that we actually make money when we keep people alive? But the fact is, if anything contradicts his narrative, he's gonna do whatever he can to shame, blame, and create shade, as opposed to solve a problem. So there's lots of things that we really dislike about him and DeVos. But this is the thing, and this is where I'm going to end on. This is one of those counties that can turn things around. This is one of those counties, just like this county voted for Stephanie Murphy, this is one of those counties that when we vote, you can see the change. You can see the win. You can see the opportunity. You can see the light. But in these 3 days, the last 2 of early voting, and then on Tuesday, we got to do what we do best, which is when we're really tired, when it feels like we have given everything we can give, we got to dig deeper and find the time, find the moment to pick up the phone or pick up the Zoom or do what we do, pick up a text and text a friend or a family member or somebody who's on our old Rolodex and ask them to go out and vote. Because the reason that they try to suppress our votes so much and the reason they hate teachers so much is because we are trusted by our communities. You see that right now in this age of COVID. You see how much parents need education and need educators, bus drivers, and our paras. But ultimately, we need to take that need. We need to take that sense of trust. And we know what we need to do in Washington. So we need to take the trust that people have in us. Not be afraid. Pick up the phone. Call people. Ask them to vote for change. Ask them to vote for fairness. Ask them to vote for hope. Ask them to vote for science. Ask them to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And when that happens, as the Reverend said before, and when that happens in Florida, that we turn this around, we end up voting as our lives depend on it, as because they do, and we see those votes coming in, and we see that on November 3rd, when Florida comes in, if it comes in for Biden and Harris, then we will have won this election. What you do in Florida, which is different than what happens in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or Michigan. Is what you do in Florida. Is you tell the world, if you vote for Biden and Harris, that is where America is. That America is turning the corner. That America does believe in hope and opportunity and inclusion and equality for all. And that's what you do when you vote for Biden and for Harris. And so I'm asking you, I'm begging you, with the hoarseness of my voice, if we want change, if we want to see light instead of despair, then we got to do everything in our power in the next 4 days to get the vote out. Thank you.
We got a few more speakers to go. And you know, as Randy was saying, it's all going to come down to Seminole County. This, for the first time, Seminole County can vote to put a Democrat in the White House and change the course of history. And so next, I want to go back to one of our candidates, Senate District 9, right here in Seminole County. Goes a little bit over the water into Volusia County. Patricia Sigmund. Patricia.
Thank you. Well, we are the fastest changing red to blue district in the entire state of Florida, Senate District 9. And with this election, I believe, and I know you believe, we will prove the case once and for all. Seminole County is a blue county. And what I want to do is make sure that everybody understands what's at stake. When it comes to public education, the choice is between someone who cares about public education as a top priority. That means that when the budget is tough and people are trying to make cuts, those cuts do not come out of public education. My opponent, Jason Broder, made cuts to public education. When the chips were down and the budget was tight, the budget was cut for public ed. That resulted in $83 million in cuts for Seminole County schools, the loss of 700 jobs, and the closure of Longwood Elementary School. We cannot go backwards in time. We need to go forwards. I normally start by saying, I'm Patricia Sigmund. I'm a mother. I'm a small business owner. I'm a voter protection leader and a labor and employment lawyer. And for over 25 years right here in this county, I've been standing up and fighting for people who've been mistreated because of their age, their race, their sex, their disability, people who are whistleblowers fired just for doing the right thing, people who are sexually harassed or abused. And that's why I am running for Florida Senate District 9, because we need to put the people first. Fighting for the people over the powerful is what I've always done and what I will continue to do. You will always come first. So, all three of my kids went through the public schools here. I spent a lot of time volunteering in the schools. Our schools here are wonderful, and we're going to help make them even better. We should never have teachers digging into their own pocket to buy school supplies and put up bulletin boards. We need to be supporting, valuing, and lifting up our educators across the board, from bus drivers and people who clean the schools and educators and people who support every aspect of what we are doing with these kids. So please join with me. Get your friends to vote. Get your neighbors to vote. Vote, vote, vote. Truth and science are on the ballot. Education is on the ballot. Thank you all.
All right. Vote, vote, vote. Get everyone you know to vote. Next, we're going to have from the Seminole NAACP, Marion Williams.
evening, everyone, and welcome to Seminole County and Sanford, which is the county seat. I bring you greetings from the NAACP. We are known as the biggest, the bad, and the boldest of all. We represent the nonpartisan group. That means all, as you know. And I'm not going to get partisan, but what I'm going to say is we need to do everything that we can do to get out to vote. Your friends, your family. And what the NAACP has been doing, I was just walking the precincts in Sanford. We have a list of the non-voters who are registered to vote. And I'm surprised that they have not gotten out. So we're knocking on the doors and leaving information for them. Also, we're phoning them. And our branch of the Seminole County DEC, which we partner with, is doing an outstanding job. And the thing that bothers me is, as African Americans, we were only allowed to vote in 1965. So we all should be out there voting. And there's no need for not to vote because we have so much on the line to lose. The census 2020, if that's not filled out, we're going to lose funds. So encourage your family. I know they cut it off. The other thing I would like to say is that when I look around, and I retired from New York 23 years ago, and I said when I first came here, I was not going to do anything. But when 2000 came, and we all know what happened then, the race was stolen from us. My husband, God rest his soul, was a retired politician from New York City, 19 years, a city council member, and a major general, 2 stars, encouraged me. He passed on. He encouraged me to run for supervisor of the election. And I said, I'm not running for no supervisor election. You crazy? I was the only D on the ballot, and I ran twice. And I'm proud to say, look at the list that we got running with D's behind their name in Seminole County. We are making history, and our voice will be heard. So get out, whatever you have to do. And right now I'm exhausted, but I will be out canvassing tomorrow in Sanford to turn out the vote. Thank you for all coming.
So, vote, vote, vote. As of yesterday, 7.8 million Floridians, about 70% of likely voters, have already voted. More importantly, maybe to some extent, from my perspective, about 80% of FEA members across this state have already voted in the state of Florida. And so we're going to continue to push to make sure every vote is counted. And now I'm going to bring up someone who really doesn't need an introduction, a good friend, a band director, which makes him even better, who went to the great Bethune-Cookman University right over there, right over the bridge, who led the United Teachers of Dade, who led the Florida Education Association, and who is now working with Randy and leading the American Federation of Teachers, my friend, Frederick Ingram.
Hey, Seminole, are you in the house? Oh, we can do better than that. Seminole, you in the house? So I'm going to ask that one more time because I've been on that bus for 30 days, okay? All right, and I've been to Kalamazoo, Michigan, where it's 28 degrees. All right, I've been to Pennsylvania, we've been to Topeka, Kansas, we've been to Denver, Colorado, we drove through the desert in Las Vegas, and I came to my home state of Florida. And Seminole, are you in the house? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to be here. Let me tell you why it's my honor to be here. Because I see a young lady over there with a Barry University shirt, so I know I'm getting closer to home. Because I went to Barry University too. Yay. And so it's the second greatest school in America. But I want to let you know the first greatest school in America is about 30 minutes that way, right? It is Bethune-Cookman University. And I only say that because I found myself at that little school on the I-4 corridor where Mary McLeod Bethune said we need to do better by children of color, people who are the least, the lost, and the left out. They need a place so that they can be educated. They need a place that is open arms to them. They need a place where we can educate their head, their heart, and their hand. And in her finest hour, she said, I leave you love, I leave you hope, I leave you a thirst for education, that our children must never lose their zeal for building a better world. That's what Mary McLeod Bethune meant. That's what the I-4 corridor means. That's what our public schools all across this nation mean to every child in every zip code who should have every opportunity to succeed and every advantage to be the best of themselves. Give my colleagues a big round of applause. Those teachers, those paraprofessionals, those secretaries, those hardworking bus drivers. And so let me just spell this out to you, because we're in a pandemic, we're in COVID, but let me talk about my bus drivers for a second, because they are the unsung heroes. Because when we started COVID, what our public schools did was redefine themselves, and we fed kids in zip codes. And some of our bus drivers turned their buses into food trucks and went into zip codes where we didn't know what this virus was going to do to anybody. That's what the educational village does. Our secretaries volunteered on food lines with our cafeteria workers. Our custodians went into our schools and cleaned in as much as they could, sometimes without the proper materials, sometimes without the proper supports, sometimes without any guidance at all, and said, we're going to do this because every child and every teacher deserves to come back to school in a particular way. That's what the educational village is. Everybody teaches in the school system. Bus drivers teach every morning. Guess what? I got a 9th grader. Guess who's the most important person in America at 5 o'clock in the morning? The bus driver. I want that bus driver to be alert. I want him to kick the tires. I want to make sure the seatbelt works, and I want them wily-eyed so that my daughter, the only thing I have in the world, can get to school, to and from, the same way she left my house. How do we underpay a person who travels with our kid every day? How do we underpay a paraprofessional who takes care of the most challenged kids that we have? How do we underpay a first grade teacher who's doing everything that they can, getting their own money out of their pocket? How do we underpay a secretary who knows where all the bones are buried in every school? How do we underpay and undervalue our public school systems? That's what the heart of America is. Listen, every parent in every zip code brings the best kid that they have at home to their school. If they had a better kid, they'll probably send that one. They don't. Little Johnny's all they got. Little Akeem is all they got. Guess what? They give them to us to transform and do the magic that we do. But you can't ask us to work magic without giving us the magic working materials. And for far too long, we have been underfunded. For far too long, we've been undersupported. And we deserve better. What this pandemic has done is reveal what was already there. We've been telling people for years that our schools are crumbling. We've been telling people for years we are breathing in mold. We've been telling people for years we are spending our own money to help these kids. We don't have band equipment. We don't have art supplies. We don't have books. We don't have the proper computers. And we go out and spend the little pennies that we make on our kids. You know why we do it? Because we deserve better. So let me say this. I'm supposed to be talking about the election. And in a roundabout way I am. Because I'm telling you, the only reason I want to change the president, for one reason, I want to fire Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos is the commissioner or secretary of education. She is the worst secretary of education America has ever seen. Not because she's Bessie DeVos, but because she has no educational background and she hates the very entity that she represents. And so I'm asking each and every one of you, if you believe in democracy, if you believe that our teachers are important to the community, if you believe that every zip code and every family, regardless of your race, your creed, your station, your culture, or your background, if you can be the best of yourselves in our public schools, then we're asking you to get to the polls. We've got to vote, and we've got to make this vote too big to rig, because they will try to take this vote away. They will try to take this election away. And I'm asking you, go out and vote. If you have not voted, that is a vote for the other side. That's not a vote against somebody. That's a vote for somebody. And it's going to be a vote against you. If you have not asked everybody in your cell phone to organize and get themselves to the polls, you got 2 votes, 2 days in early vote, Saturday and Sunday. And then you've got election day. And then you've got to stand in the line. And then you got to beat out the rain if it starts to rain. And then you got to tell somebody to bring you some food if the line is 3 hours long. And then you got to tell your cousins. And then you got to tell your friends and your colleagues, y'all better get in this line. And then you don't get out of line until you place that vote. Because if this is not too big to rig, on November 4th, our country is going to have a problem. Last thing I'll say to you is this. History is written right now. What better place to be? This is America. It's still the best country in the world. It's still the best opportunity we got. It's still the one thing that is the crown jewel of the world. It is up to us to protect it. Why is it up to us to protect it? If we don't, our children 20 years from now will look at you in the eyeball and they'll say, what did you do? In 22, oh, I got theme music going now. I might be here for a whole nother 30 minutes. Listen, I'm a Baptist preacher. Y'all know when the music comes, you got to ride with it, right? I'm from the hood. Now, you can take the guy out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the guy. Yeah. Listen, when your grandchildren and when your nieces and nephews ask you the question, in 2020, when they said the world started spinning the other way, racial divides were at an all-time high, economics was hurting everybody, public schools were hanging in the balance, we had crazy leadership going on from all walks of life, they're going to ask you, what did you do, Grandma? Tell me your story. They're going to ask you, what did you do, Grandpa? Tell me your story. And you would want to tell your bloodline that I stood in the gap. You would want to tell your bloodline so that they can continue this democracy, that I stood in the gap and I fought for a better world for you and for your children. That's what I'm asking you to do. That's why we got to get to the polls. That's what's in the balance. Our children deserve it. You deserve it. Our families deserve it. It is my honor to be a high school band director. My crowning moment is to be the father of Jordan, Aaron, and Elon, all graduates of public schools. And I want you to know that public schools saved this kid's life. Every statistic in America says I shouldn't be here today. I grew up in the hood in Miami. I grew up in abject poverty. I grew up in housing projects. Neither of my parents went to college. I was the first to go to college. And my mom said, you going way to Daytona Beach? I can't believe you're going to leave me all 4 hours away. Yeah, Mom, 4 hours. But that's what we do every day. That's why this thing called education is magic. That's why this thing called democracy is something special. And that's why when you put the two together, we make better people. We make better families. And all that we can ask for is for you to take care of your fellow man, give back to your community, and be able to work and provide for yourself. That's what I want for my kids. You can be an astronaut on the Cape, or you can be a plumber. But I want you to be the best plumber that you can be. That's what our schools provide. And we've got to do that in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of an economic crisis, in the middle of environmental injustice, in the middle of racial injustice. We've got to do it because we are standing in the gap. Thank y'all so much on behalf of 1.7 million members across this nation. We won't stop until the polls close. Thank you so much.
You heard that. It said jokers to the right. I'm just saying. I don't know. Hey, we're coming to an end, and I want to just take a moment here, personal privilege, and recognize the leadership team at the Florida Education Association who work with me every day fighting for public schools. The professor, Ms. Nandi Riley, who is our secretary-treasurer, and our vice president, Carol Goronskis, a paraprofessional from St. Johns County. And it's been a real honor. And I also want to recognize our local leadership here. You heard Shantae earlier with the Bus Drivers Association. We got Rosie Garria over here with Sika. I know Carlos, I don't think could be here today, Carlos Crispin, and with NIPSCO. And now I'm going to bring up, to close things out here, Dan Smith. You are closing it out, aren't you? That's what I was told. All right, Dan Smith, president of SEA.
All right, see you later. Unplanned, I'm sorry, but thank you so much for coming out and supporting your friends of public education. And please, desperately, if you haven't voted, if you're watching the polls and you're saying that Joe Biden's got this by 9%, vote anyway, all right? Bring a book, bring a video, bring your friends, stand in line, whatever it takes, but we got to get your vote. We must get your vote. You know very well that it wasn't even that long ago we had one of our people beat Chris Doris by about 60 votes, okay, or less, and it really, really, really does matter, even in a presidential election. So please, thanks for coming out. Thanks for supporting public education. And let's make sure we get every one of our candidates voted in. All right? Peace.